Why does the world hate leg day? It is clear as anything to me right now why most of the world skips leg day, hates leg day, never looks forward to leg day. It's just basically hard to live your life with this type of soreness. If you're doing some sort of physical job, you pretty much are unable to do your job if you have soreness like this. You can't move. Do you understand? You can't move. You can't bend over. You can't pick anything up. You can't squat down. You can't lunge down. You can't climb a ladder. You can't do anything. If you're in an office, doing that kind of thing, okay, you can get away with it. But even then, your mood, your central nervous system is just fatigued from constant pain. Every time you move, every time you stand up, there's pain. And this is why I think leg day is the most often skipped body part. It's just hard, man. Like if you can do whatever the hell you want to do with pull-ups, push, pull, whatever you want to do with the upper body, you're never going to get disabled to this extent. The first thing that comes to my mind when people tell me, Ivan, how can you squat every single day, is this type of stuff, because people think I have this pain all the time. And the truth of the matter is I rarely have soreness. I remember back in the day, a lot of people think that I was born into squat every day. It wasn't like that. There was a point where I used to skip leg day back when I started training. I remember the first time I squatted, man, I was sore for like 2 weeks, man. The first time I squatted, first time I did anything, like I was like in such shock that I was like, man, the hell with this, man. This is just agony. The trick to all of this is not to do it once a week. Some people tell me, Ivan, I get better results than you. I train legs every fortnight. And I'm like, that might be the case. And I don't really know what you're doing in the kitchen and in your cupboard, what you got going on. I really don't know. And frankly, I don't care. But when people tell me train legs once every fortnight, I'm like, if you're cramming in 2 weeks worth of volume into one day, man, like I don't even know how your body's processing that on a blood gas level. Like how much lactate are you producing? How much CK are you producing in your bloodstream, which are basically these blood tests that show muscle damage and essentially kidney damage, with it as well. I know back in the day when I used to skip my leg day and then it would automatically become a 2-week break from legs, I would dread coming into that day finally when I get around to it, is because it's so freaking painful. And, this is why, like, you never want to skip legs, man, because when you skip legs, you can basically book in a miserable day next week. So if you're going to train legs for bodybuilding or whatever you got going on, at least twice a week, man, because that, like if you're training it once a week, is just too hard, man. It's too freaking hard. This morning I tried to do some gardening. It's raining a lot here where I am. So the grass seems to grow freaking 30 centimeters every single day. So I walked out today. I had to, get something going. I've had the weekend off work. So I'm like, I don't want to have another 2 or 3 days without touching the lawn and the backyard and whatever, because by the time I get around to it in 3 days' time, it's going to be over my freaking head. So I've gone out there, I'm weeding and doing all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, my Lord, this is so much harder than it should be, man. Especially the first 10 minutes, it's like, oh my Lord, I feel like I'm going to tear the damn adductors off the bone. And this is coming from somebody that squats every day. Like, how crazy is that? Like, I do a squatting motion every single day. But these wide stance squats, and granted, I went quite wide. My God, has that murdered me, man. I might as well not have ever squatted in my life. That's how much soreness I have right now. These adductors of mine are so weak in comparison to the rest of me. So these adductors have different engagement levels depending on your stance, right? The more narrow you go, the less demand is on them, right? The less stretch there is on them. So now I've gone really, really wide, and I've done a whole bunch of sets with it, and my quads and my glutes and my core and the rest of me is easily taking the weight that I had on the bar for these wide stance squats, but the adductors are just being annihilated, absolutely being annihilated. And so I don't know how other people do their adductors. I don't know how other people, train these movements. I know there's the Copenhagen plank or whatever it's called, like all these kind of isolation exercises, man. Like, I don't think anything will get you as sore as this. Maybe, I don't know, sumo deadlifts or something like this will get this much soreness going. But when it comes to the adductors, I'm really starting to think to myself that the adductors are like the king of the lower body. Because when you have really sore hamstrings, you're really sore hamstrings, you've annihilated them with, let's say, with Romanian deadlifts or stiff-legged deadlifts, you can still squat. You might have poor mobility, but it doesn't hurt to squat. With adductors, man, I can't bend over, I can't squat, I can't do the bending or the vertical torso squatting. I can't do anything. Like, everything is locked up. Everything hurts. So it's kind of like a central muscle group, and it's a big muscle. If you look at I don't know about you guys, man, but like if you palpate your leg, like a large portion is the adductors, man. The hamstrings look tiny in comparison. Tiny. The adductors are huge. So, I don't know. I've had sore quads. I can deadlift. I've had sore hamstrings. I can squat. I've got sore adductors. I can't do anything, man. I can't even do freaking weeding in the backyard. I can't squat. I can't deadlift. I can't lunge. I don't do anything. And so today, for the first time, I don't know, God knows how long, I've come in and I'm like, I'm really dreading squatting. Like, I can't squat today, man. Like, so I came in and I said to myself, all right, let's just do some upper body stuff. So I came in, did bench press, messed around with my son. We were kind of doing all these exercises. I did some bicep curls, bench press, and that was basically it. And then finally I was like, all right, I really have to kind of get around to it. And so by then I had a bit of blood rushing around the body, and then I went to squat, and I worked up to 140, and it hurts, but it was warmed up, so it hurts less. But it's a sorry existence, man. Sorry existence. The last 3 days I've done very little work. I can't do any work. And when I can't squat or deadlift, these are my real motivators to actually come into the garage. My motivation is really low. My energy is really low. Like, a lot of people have asked me, why don't you, after these 1,000 days, why don't you like do pull-ups every single day now? Like do deadlifts or do bench press every day, do something different. And frankly, I don't know if I will be able to do 1,000 days of bench press. I just don't have the passion for it. I don't have the obsession about that movement. It's like, whatever. Like, with squatting, man, whether it's a bad day or a good day, like there's always some sort of drive for me to come in because I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a drag. So I don't know if anybody out there could do 1,000 days in a row of something that they don't particularly enjoy, because on those bad days, you're going to be really tested. Your will is going to be tested. I'm sure it can be done if you're a hard ass enough. But, for me, it's like, the whole thing's about squatting, man. The reason why I like deadlifting is because it helps my squatting. Even deadlifting in its own is like, it's a great exercise, the second best for me. But even then, it's like, I don't know. Like, it's great, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. But in a vacuum, without anything else, I don't know, man. I don't know. So on days like this, when I know I'm not going to do anything with squatting, I know it's going to be poor, it's going to be unpleasant, man, it's a hard sell to even come into the garage. So whatever you are, hot about, whatever makes you tick, just plan your training around that. Whatever the people are saying, you shouldn't do freaking wrist curls every single day, or you shouldn't do pull-ups every day, or you shouldn't, whatever exercise, insert here, you shouldn't do that every day. Whatever, man. If that makes you get off the couch, get out of bed, and makes you look forward to training, do it. That's the focus of the training. And all the other stuff, you can actually surround that particular movement and those exercises, those accessories around that. And that's it. That's how I look at it. And I can see the importance of squatting to me, because it's the main pillar that's holding up this whole structure of training every day and looking forward to training and all of that. A lot of you guys might find that really weird. Some of you guys might love bench press. Some of you guys might love overhead press. It doesn't really matter. The point is, just get off your ass, get out of the house, get off the couch, come in and do whatever. And then once the blood is rushing around, once you're warmed up, it's easy to just keep the momentum going. But you have to have something in your mind that doesn't need momentum. You with absolutely no momentum, you can get up and do this thing. Rain, shine, whatever the case might be, you love to do that. And that for me is squats, and it's always kind of been that driver for me. Now I'm thinking to myself, man, okay, squats are my thing. You know, when I first started training way back, I used to think to myself, okay, if I really want to get good at the squats, I know quads need to be strong. So squats and quads go together, hamstrings and deadlifts go together. And then I kind of started learning about all these different things, and I thought, geez, I reckon it's the glutes, man. I don't think the quads are the main thing here. I think the glutes really produce athleticism. You know, I remember there was a period of that thinking. And I used to think deadlifting is all hamstrings. It's just hip extension. You just stand up. And then you start learning all these other elements, why it's a full body exercise, all these things that are not so obvious, but are the key components of a given lift. Now I'm starting to think to myself, man, these adductors, man, because I'm so disabled from them, maybe this is a really good indicator that they are the king of the lower body. Like as in, they tie everything else together, man. It's like if you remove Michael Jordan from the Bulls, they're not doing well at all. But if you remove Luke Longley from the Bulls, they're still going straight to the championships and probably still sweeping everyone left, right, and center. So it's like, which component, if that is a healthy thing to think about, which component of movement is most important? Which one you can't do without? And it's a crappy question to ask yourself, but I find it's almost, I think it's beneficial to actually weigh importance of different structures in your body, because then you can kind of appreciate what's actually going on. Like, yes, of course, like, you know, you need quads to squat. Obviously, if you're going to have a knee bend, you're going to have a freaking knee straightener, right? Like, you just can't do it. But there's manipulation of certain elements of squatting, and you can kind of hide your weak quads. You can just basically hip hinge and just do that, right? You know? But I don't know if you can do anything without adductors, man. Whether it's narrow or wide. Obviously, wide calls them in more. But I don't know if anything's possible without adductors. Like I said, I've had sore quads, really sore quads. And I've had really sore hamstrings. And hamstrings are probably the second worst. But like I said, like when I've got bad hamstrings, I can squat. My mobility's shit because everything's tightened up. But I can squat. I can move through that range of motion without pain. With adductors, no plane of motion is comfortable, man. Everything is screwed up. Like yesterday, I tried to bench press and I felt tired bench pressing because of the central nervous fatigue that this soreness is causing me. Is just draining my whole freaking system. Like I literally can't make a movement with my lower body without, you know, causing some sort of pain. It's like I can feel it walking, I can feel it squatting, I can feel it, you know, picking a pen off the floor, whatever the case might be. It's just a bad existence. So I don't know. Which movements train the adductors the most? I mean, you would be hard pressed right now that I'm thinking about it to find a better exercise than wide stance squatting for the adductors. I know you can do isolation stuff like the Copenhagen, you know, but that's isolation stuff. You can't really put that into the same bucket as you know, deadlifts and squats. How could you manipulate the adductors to the maximum? Sumo deadlifts is the only other thing I can think of. Basically, you need to be in a wide stance. And yes, I'm talking about a wide stance here a lot, and that shows my maturation of my thinking, because there was a time where I used to freaking hate looking at people squat like that, deadlift people squat like that. I used to hate it. But now I'm like, man, if I'm seriously considering adductors being the main transit, the main component of the lower body, man, okay, so what trains that the most? Okay, like I said, I initially thought in my training life that it was the quads when it came to squatting. Then I thought it was the glutes. Now I'm thinking adductors. Obviously, you need all of them. But when you're thinking about the most important part, you know, what is the most important part? Then you can start kind of shifting the chess pieces on the chessboard, because you have different importance, right? You can't live without the king, right? So if you put the king right at the front, you game over me. You're done. So it's really important for you to kind of understand what's the most important component, because then you're going to place the most emphasis where you need to. Adductors, wide stance. So, you know, now I can't understand now why Louis Simmons used to say, If you are really good at wide stance squatting, you're going to be all right in narrow stance squatting. But the opposite is not true. I am the opposite example. I'm pretty good at narrow. 212 and a half is my max in narrow. What is my max in wide? I don't know, man. Like, I can't even hit depth with 100 kilos properly. I feel like I'm going to rip something off the bone. So this is something to consider. So now, okay, all right, let's make the wide stance squat get up to 4 plates. Man, so what is my narrow going to be? If I add, 50% weight, let's say 80% weight onto, like, extra weight on my wide stance squat. If I improve my wide stance squats by 80%, my Lord, a lot of that has to transfer if I'm listening to all of the experts and my own anecdote now. There's something to it, man. Something to it. The whole day today, I'm limping around thinking about it. Like, man, there's something to it, man. If something is not important, it wouldn't cause such a systemic difficulty for the human body. If the adductors weren't important, they wouldn't hurt this much. I appreciate all of you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.